This is Owen McKendry for ESBR Boxing, delighted to be joined in Altrincham by Joey Barton ringside. Joey, a fellow Scouser, Jack Turner with an emphatic knockout. What did you make of that?
Yeah, look, Jack's been steamrolling everybody, hasn't he? So it was inevitable he was going to run into trickier and trickier opponents as the level goes up. And for the Argentinian boy who came tonight was very game. You know, he put pressure on Jack early and he had to ask himself a few questions. He got clipped a few times. He had to show that little bit of a chin, but as Jack's shown in his whole career, for the weight division, he doesn't half pack a punch, and phenomenal shot to finish the fight.
Hailing from a huge boxing city yourself, Nick Ball, we're looking at potentially fighting Naoya Inoue at Anfield. How big do you think it would be for specifically that fight, but also to have boxing at a stadium in Liverpool?
Look, I think it's a great fighting city. It always has been, from your kind of John Conte era into Shane Neary, Tony Bellew, etc., the Smith brothers. We've always had a great fighting culture in the city, and Nick Ball and Jack hopefully can keep that torch burning and keep bringing big fights to the city. So it's nice to see Nick doing so well. Obviously he was in a really tough fight last time out, but it'd be great to have a world title fight in the city and get everyone excited for a Liverpool champion.
Obviously football being your forte, have you always been a big boxing fan, or is it just if there's someone from the city fighting you're taking interest, or is it sort of just partake in boxing every now and then?
Oh no, I grew up with a great grandfather as Navy boxing champion, so it was kind of always drilled into us as kids, and obviously one of my grandfathers and cousins were involved in a boxing club in the area where I'm from, so I've kind of always grown up with it. I never wanted to really do it. I used to enjoy the training and stuff, but I thought it was always football for me.
Obviously you want to go with controversial topics. Jake Paul is a bit of the circus in boxing. What do you make of him? He was meant to be fighting AJ. He's now fighting someone where there's 8 weight differences. What do you make of that?
Look, I think from a traditional standpoint, I think it's a bit of a tricky spot for boxing, because he's obviously bringing the spotlight to the game, but obviously it's some people are talking about it being rigged fights and a little bit of WWE meets boxing. Look, I'm not really against anybody doing well, but I think if I was Tank Davis, I think there's better fights out there to cement your legacy as a fantastic boxer. Jake Paul is obviously going to raise a right few quid for both of them. But I think for the sport of boxing, you want to see champions, and Tank has been, a really good champion. You want to see them fighting other champions in the weight division, or, maybe stepping up a weight division as Crawford is going to do with Canelo. Fighting kind of novelty fights against influencers and Disney YouTubers is maybe not the best way to cement your legacy, but it does get you millions and millions of pounds in the bank. So sometimes money talks.
Another fellow scout said Darren Till sort of taking over Misfits, we shall say. Could we ever see a Joey Barton appearance on Misfits?
No, I'm too fat and too old for that now. No, leave it to Darren. Darren's doing a great job over there. I've seen him noising up Luke Rockhold, so it'll be interesting to see how he gets on in that. But it's good to see the kind of Misfit scene and all those kind of nerds and virgins having fights. But leave the fighting to the professionals. Darren's a professional MMA fighter, gone into boxing. But I'm not sure about all them other divvies that you sometimes see fighting on there,
Joey, thank you so much for your time, and enjoy the rest of the boxing, mate.